I just have to share with you that I cannot wait to get home today to have lunch. David prepared a beautiful chicken pot pie, and I've already had a piece. And he made homemade crust, so it's flaky and golden brown and delicious. And he knows that I don't like great big bite size. He likes great big bite size, but I like little bites of lots of taste together. So he cut the carrots really small and the onions really small and the potatoes really small and the pieces of chicken really small, and the gravy's thick. And I cannot wait to get home and warm up a piece and have it today for lunch.
See ya.
I'm not that excited. Today we are talking about consciousness. So what I just did was provide an example for us so that we can relate to how consciousness works in its various ways. And we're going to talk about 3 of those ways today. First is the universal. So universally, we all would know that there is such thing as chicken pot pie. It's an idea, an overarching idea in the mind of God. And that is the universal. The idea that all that is of that. Now I know scientists are starting to say that, no, there are many levels of universe. So if you're there, okay, I get you. But I'm still calling it all universe. Because universe being God, being all that is, universe has to stay that word for me. If they want to name these other things something different, fine, but the universal whole, the allness that God is, every idea is there. And that's what we work with. Everything is available to us. Then we move into the idea of what Holmes calls race consciousness, or collective consciousness, or group consciousness. Unless you just were blowing me off this morning, all of us were thinking about chicken pot pie. Yes? That's group consciousness. And maybe some of that exuberance that I have about going home to eat some of that rubbed off on you too, and you were thinking that. That then becomes individual consciousness. We have individualized the universal whole. We have chosen an idea. Now you may have thought, well, I don't even really like chicken pot pie, so when I go home for lunch, I'm going to have this, or I don't know what I'm going to have for lunch. Now that she's talking about it, I better think about it. Or I didn't have breakfast this morning, so I'm hungry right now, and she's making me hungry. Or maybe you were thinking something different. You could have been individualizing that shared idea by thinking, wow, they eat some pretty high-calorie meals. Or maybe you were thinking, well, I'm vegetarian, so I wouldn't eat the chicken in it, but I'd love to have a veggie pot pie. Or you could have been thinking, wow, David made the pot pie. I need to get a partner like that to make me all these nice meals that loves to cook. Or you could have even been thinking, oh, David made the pot pie? She's the woman. She should have been doing that. Whatever we were thinking about became our prayer. Whatever we are thinking about is consciousness individualized in us. Both way, oh, am I trying to call you that? I think I did last month too. Both wonderful Frank and wonderful Kathy shared some great ideas for things to think or say. Consciousness, purposefully thinking from a place that shares all that good with us. What we hold in consciousness is all about us. And we were really strongly leaning toward this topic, but because we have actually heard some science of mind people recently saying, well, I think that idea is the worst one we have in science of mind. Seriously? That is the most powerful idea we can have in science of mind. The conviction and determination and knowing that the universal whole has every idea, and I get to choose from that. I get to choose what I'll put in my personal pot pie. And that is always our truth.
Wow. So what is your truth? What are you thinking about? What is your reality? And to what extent or to what degree do you rely on consciousness to bring that into manifestation in your life? To what extent are you actually using the greatest tool we have, consciousness? There are a lot of ways of looking at life and a lot of ways of determining how life works for us. And I thought I'd talk about some of those today, and I know I've talked about them in the past, but here we go. I'm talking about worldviews. First of all, materialism. Materialism states that everything that truly exists is matter. Everything is material. And it says that all phenomena that we see are results of material interactions, like billiard balls bouncing into each other, or chain reactions, or chemical reactions. It's purely scientific. It's quantifiable, it's logical, it's predictable, it's mechanical, and so it's easy to put things on a shelf, categorize things, and everything makes sense to us. Perfectly suitable for science. Materialism is the philosophy that matter is all that exists. It is a branch of naturalism that denies the existence of spiritual and supernatural entities. So feelings and faith have no influence on our material experience. On the other hand, there's idealism, another worldview. And this worldview that the world views, it states that spirit and mind and the objects of mind, like ideas and thoughts, are primary, and matter is secondary. Idealism is the view that mind or energy is the ground of all being, and that matter of itself is an illusion. You know that everything at its fundamental core is energy, so therefore anything that appears as materialistic as matter must be an illusion. It comes from kind of similar to René Descartes' idea that I think, therefore I am. So therefore our thoughts create everything we experience. It's also interesting that René Descartes is the person who defined the scientific process and talked about materialism as being the reality that we could study. So unfortunately, neither one of those worldviews is what science mind supports. We don't support either one of those worldviews. We know that we are divine beings having a physical experience, and so we get to experience both sides of those, matter and idealism. Panpsychism is another worldview, and it says that all things have a mind or a mind-like quality. It comes from two Greek words, pan for all, and psyche for soul or mind. So all is soul or mind. In the philosophy of mind, psychism is the view that the mind or a mind-like aspect is a fundamental and ubiquitous feature of reality. It also is described as a theory that mind is a fundamental feature of the world which exists throughout the entire universe. So mental energy does interact with matter. That's basically what Einstein was saying when he said E equals mc squared. Energy equals matter. Energy is matter. They are codependent aspects of life. So consciousness is the place where all this takes place. Consciousness is the ground of all being. It's kind of the cosmic glue that holds everything together. It's the creative energy of the universe, and it flows in, through, and as us and everything that is.
Thank heavens.
Hmm.
So the proof that there is consciousness, that consciousness is all that is found in the simple fact that we are conscious. If God is all that is, then all that is created in the image and likeness of God. And so, therefore, that's why we can experience consciousness. And we understand it to the degree that we are in relationship with it. To the degree that we are using our consciousness purposefully, we experience purposefully. Ernest Holmes wrote, "A consciousness of wholeness is the experience of healing." A consciousness of wholeness is the experience of healing. What this means is that no matter what's going on in our life, and things happen, don't they? I'm not excluded. I'm standing up here talking about this because I absolutely believe in it. But I'm not excluded from having things in the physical world appear. It's what we do with it in consciousness, remembering to have that mind full of wholeness and to absolutely know beyond the appearance of any and all situations. So it means that all fear, all limitation, all separation no longer exist when we live in the idea of wholeness. There's no room for any of the rest of that stinking thinking. The idea that we are never, ever separate from that good. And I know you might notice that I really like that word. For me, it's synonymous with God. It's a God day. It's a God moment. The only place that we are able to separate from that good is within our individualized mind. Because we have the power to think a thought according to what we desire to think about it. So there's a great story that represents this good-bad tug of war. And so you could say it's not just a story literally like it is, but also it's within us. So there's a farmer and his son who had a beloved stallion that they used to help them farm their land. And one night the farmer got loose and ran away. The horse. Thank you, John. The farmer did, he got loose. Yeah, he got loose.
Another even more interesting story.
Love those things. Laughter is good for the soul. And I'll laugh right along with it. And thank you for pointing that out. So when the horse got loose and ran away, all the neighbors shouted out to the farmer and they said, "Your horse ran away. That's bad." And the farmer just kind of raised his chin up a little bit and he said, "We'll see." And a few days later, the stallion returned, and with him was a whole herd of wild mares. And so then the neighbors were shouting, "Ooh, your horse has returned and brought a lot more horses to you. You're wealthy. That's good." To which the farmer once again lifted his chin up just a little bit and said, "We'll see." So a few days go by and the farmer's son is trying to break and train one of the horses and he gets thrown and he breaks his leg. You know what the neighbors shouted, what was it?
That's bad.
That's bad, yes, and the farmer lifts his chin just a little and he says, "We'll see." And so a week after that, the son is still laid up with a broken leg, and the soldiers come through the town, and they're recruiting all the young men in the town for war. But the farmer's son was not taken because of his broken leg. And so again, the neighbors shouted out,
That's good.
and the farmer said,
We'll see.
now you can take that story on and on and on with all the individualized ideas. Our consciousness expressed individually is the master of our lives. As we express our own thoughts to ourselves, to others, or with our behaviors, that is the master of how life shows up. The man's life was wonderful, and he knew it. He did not rely on outer appearances at all to sustain his joy and peace. The neighbors represent the ideas that are sometimes calling out to us and distracting us, or attempting to distract us from our inner peace. And I don't know about you, but that's not necessarily even anyone outside of myself. It can be, but my own voices inside my head have great conversations back and forth. But I get to choose which one is the master of my life. And you get to choose which is the master of your life. The man knew that his power lies within him, and so does ours. Again, a consciousness of wholeness is the experience of healing.
So I ask again, what are you thinking? And what is that doing? What is that thought doing in your life? I came across that idea this week, and of course I'm looking up Ernest Holmes, looking up consciousness and thought and so on, find some things to back up my ideas, my thoughts. And I found this quote, and I thought, well, this is interesting. Ernest Holmes says, the source of thought is consciousness. Thought is not cause, it is effect. Intelligence is cause. Thought is not cause, it's an effect. And I thought, well, wait a minute. We teach all the time, change your thinking, change your life, do we not? We talk about that all the time. And so I thought, well, if thoughts are not causative, if thoughts are effects, not causation, then how is it that we change our thought and then change our life? So I read the rest of Ernest Holmes' quote. Always a good idea. He says, first comes consciousness, then thought, then comes the word, then the law, and then the thing. Consciousness is eternal, without beginning, without end. And I thought, so maybe thought isn't the first part of the process. Maybe change your thinking, change your life. The change comes before the thought. Okay, if you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. If you always think what you've always thought, you always get what you always got. And if you want to make a difference, you need to change your thinking. You need to change your thought. Where do we go to find a new thought, a better thought? We go to the source of thoughts, consciousness. We go back to the source of all that is, the infinite realm of possibilities, and we choose from another possibility to think about. We come up with a new idea. We say, yeah, I think that works. I resonate with it. I relate to it. I choose it or claim it. And then I bring it into my own identity. So I give it presence. That's where it becomes an effect. But it's still tied to the original causation, the original consciousness that created it in the first place, the one cause. So I release that into universal law, and of course, it becomes manifest. That's how the system works. So the change is the consciousness that creates a new thought. So thought is an effect. It's not a causation. It kind of changes our thinking about change your thinking, change your life, doesn't it? There's a divine idea in the mind of God, which is one cause. We attach that to our idea or our thought. We claim it and identify with it and relate to it, then release our concept or our prototype into the law, and then we let it become manifest. There's no beginning or no ending to this process, because it all started in consciousness and it all ended in consciousness. It still is a divine idea in the mind of God, even though it has become manifest. It is still a divine idea in the mind of God. And when we're done with that idea, when we're done with that thought, the energy that created goes back up into the realm of infinite possibility to become something else. It's important for us to remember that thought and mind are not the same thing. Mind and consciousness are the same thing. Not 1 ounce of consciousness is deleted in the creative process from the point of the divine idea through the individualized thought into the individualized form. The same amount of consciousness started at the top of the sequence all the way to the bottom. And when we release it again, the same amount of consciousness flows back up into the realm of infinite possibility. We may have personalized the thought and had it materialize in a certain way in our personal lives, but the consciousness that created it, the consciousness that brought it into manifestation, was all the same, never changed. It was all one universal principle. Ernest Holmes says, realizing then that while the power is limitless, it must become operative through our own thought. We shall see that what we need is not some greater power, but a greater consciousness, a deeper realization of life, a more sublime concept of being, a more intimate concept of an already indwelling God who is personal to us by virtue of being personified through us. We are co-creators in life. We are co-creators with the divine. It flows through us as us into our experience, but we don't have absolute claim over it because it still is a universal idea. It's still universal consciousness in action. Even when something becomes materialized, an effect, it's still universal action, consciousness working. Ernest Holmes says there's a place within us where thought springs spontaneous from the infinite, and where the idea and the thing thought of merge into one. That's a powerful statement. There's a place within us where the idea, the thing thought of, and the original consciousness all merge into one thing. It's all consciousness. He said we should permit the inspiration of the creative genius of the universe to impart new ideas to us, to create new scenes, to enlarge all our horizons. So the way I see that is we permit inspiration to change our thinking and change our lives through consciousness. Ernest Holmes says, consciousness is the most important thing in your life. Powerful statement. Consciousness is the most important thing in your life. You did not create it. It came with you when you entered this world. Consciousness, or that thing which you already are, is the gift of life.
It is a wonderful gift for each one of us. And my beautiful, wonderful, perfect, whole, and complete spiritual family. Do not allow anyone or anything to snuff out your loving, peaceful, joy-filled life. Allow that light within you to burn brightly. Do not allow anyone or anything, past, present, or future, to close the door to your thought of that which you know to be right and good for you. Because you know best. Within you, there is that knowing. And that knowing comes through us at times of meditation or affirmations. It can come to us in the most unique moments. It comes intuitively and it comes instinctively. Stay strong in your awareness of your own wholeness and your own goodness. And you can and will transcend the human experience. The Bible tells us to be strong and of good courage. Holmes reminds us that all of our work begins and ends in our own personal consciousness, which is universal consciousness also. There is nothing more important than to be a conduit of wholeness, abundance, loving kindness, whatever words you give to spirit. And we do this through the actions of our own mind. We do not have to depend upon a condition as it appears, but rather reach deep within ourselves, beyond the seen, to the unseen, to the universal whole, and realize the spiritual realm of unity and well-being. Build your relationship with the highest love of your life, and that is divine spirit, creator, divine intelligence. Holmes says there has to be in everyone a light. There has to be in everyone divinity. There has to be behind everyone an urge and a push, and in front of everyone a pull that is irresistible, immutable, and absolute. He says there has to be a state of consciousness that exercises its authority at the level of our perception of it. Know thyself and have a great lunch.
Doing it.